Okay, we're live. Good afternoon and welcome to Agape Theater Project's Theater Talk Live. And today we have the incomparable Vivian Reed. We like a voice. Miss Vivian Reed.
Hey.
Welcome to Theater Talk Live.
Thank
Michelle,
you.
I don't know what to say. Just go ahead.
Go.
Okay,
Kill it, Michelle.
so
Go.
I know. So give us some update. Like, how did you even get started into theater or even singing? Did you feel like you
Just
had
singing,
the
period?
talent all along? Just singing,
Well,
period.
my mom and dad, I don't remember this because I think they said at the age of 3. And I must have been doing something, singing something. And so my mother says, I think our daughter's going to be a singer. She says I was making melodious tones. Their words, not mine.
Oh wow.
And so at age 6, they took me to see a lady by the name of Mrs. Romaine Russell, who was teaching at the Pittsburgh Musical Institute. And she said that I was too young and to come back in 2 years. So when I turned 8, my mother took me back there and I studied for the next few years until I graduated from high school, and then went to Juilliard after that. And I was classified as a dramatic soprano, and that's it. That's how I've been singing as far back as I can remember. I mean, I've
Wow.
gone through several changes. I mean, switching over from classical music to how I sing today, it's kind of come full circle. It wasn't an easy switch because I really was born a classical singer. So my vocal folds were not too happy about me belting them. Bam, bam. They said, oh, hell no, you're not doing this to us.
But you go down so low and then can go so high. That's the range,
Yeah. When I was in classical music, it was nothing for me to go up to a G, a high G above high C. It was like effortless, even though I sang very few arias that called for that. I think my low notes, which are real low, it was
Yes.
just, they're low. They're down there. I'm basically almost in the baritone range.
Mhm.
So anyway, but I think just from me practicing down there, and I had the warmth and the depth in my low notes, and I just basically worked to even stretch my range as far as it could go. And so yeah, it's some range.
Wow. So at what point did you feel like after you went to school, you went to Juilliard. So at what point did you feel like, okay, my career is getting ready to take off?
Okay,
'Cause,
career getting ready to take off. Well, I didn't finish Juilliard. In my 3rd year, I was out. I got offered a contract because Bobby Schiffman, the Schiffmans who used to own the Apollo Theater, and Mr. Honey Coles, a lot of people might recognize his name. He starred in My One and Only and received a Tony. And Bobby Schiffman and Honey became my managers. And at that time, I was in my 2nd year at Juilliard, and I wasn't even singing the kind of music that they were doing at the Apollo. And one thing I knew, honey, they wasn't singing classical music up on that stage. So, but when I asked Honey, I had gotten out of the business for a while. And I wanted, it was time to get back. My mother had just recently passed because I was out of the business to take care of my mom until she passed. So after she passed, I said, okay, I better get back to whatever career I got left. So I called Bobby. At this point, he's in his 80s. And I basically asked him, what was it about the skinny black little girl that you wanted to manage? And he just said that he thought I had something special and he wanted to be a part of it and to nourish it. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. Theater came about a bit later. I basically, once my voice got accustomed, or the vocal folds, I should say, got accustomed to singing, more popular music, and I wasn't getting hoarse so often because I used to get hoarse all the time because it was a terrible, hard transition. I did nightclubs for a while and became very comfortable in nightclubs, and then theater. It was what's something funny? I got my equity card. Equity is our union.
Right.
For theater. And for those who are listening, who may not know that. So there was this audition. at the then Edison Theater, which is non-existent now. And so I went in the audition. And so the choreographer said, Larry Fullerchild, he said, "Can you tap?" I said, what? Yes, I can tap. Tap my ass off. Baby, I wouldn't know a shuffle from a slap. I mean, obviously, I know these things now because I eventually studied. Well, honey, we got into rehearsal and there was this big tap number. Of course, he knew right away. This girl had never had a tap lesson in her life. So he came over, he said, "You lied to me." I said, "But I can do it. I can do it." He said, "You can do it." I said, "Listen, do you know who Honey Coles is?" He said, "Of course I know who Honey Coles is." I said, "Well, listen, he's my manager." "Oh, yeah, he's your manager." Just another lie you telling. So I said, no, you can call. He's at the Apollo Theater. And I said, he can come down and he can watch, what you're doing, and he can teach it to me, at the Apollo. We can moonlight. And so that's what Honey did. He called him up and he let Honey know. And Honey said, "Vivian, why did you do that?" And anyway, Honey came to the rehearsals and I ended up, they kept me in the show. Well, child, let me tell you, a few months ago, I think it was a few months ago, he came to Marymount Manhattan College to choreograph this show, this concert. And I'm saying, Lord, I wonder if he's still holding that against me. So I went to the rehearsal because I want to say hi to him. Child, we hugged and kissed. I said, "Larry, you remember when I lied to you?" He said, "I could never forget it." But all is forgiven. In fact, he took me to lunch and we talked about it. I had a big laugh over it. So would I recommend that people do that? Not really. Because a girl did it to us at Bubbly Brown Show and lied through her teeth. Said she could dance. It was so obvious she had never had a dance class. But the thing that I did is, yes, I told the lie, but I worked so hard after that. Every night I was at the Apollo and Honey would work with me on the routine, and I backed it up. And I will say that I did look as good as the other dancers when all was said and done. But I worked to back up that damn lie, because if I hadn't, it would have been such a difference between the other dancers who really could tap and me. So I had to work hard.
And I think, listening to this story, like what really helped is to have him in your corner.
Yes.
Because if you didn't, I mean, we can all say it happens for a reason, but to have him in your corner and to say, okay, like, look, what did you do this time? Or, you know what I mean? Or what's going on? Because that right there.
I could have easily gotten fired. Had there been no Honey Coles, they probably would have let me go. Although they did hire me for my singing. But this show, you had to be a triple threat. And I had the singing down and the acting to a point. But that dancing at that particular time was non-existent. How I came to study dance was when I did Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope. And after I finished it, I left. This is when Vanette was still living, God rest her soul. And she took me to Chicago and opened up Don't Bother Me, I Can't Cope. And she said, "Vivian, listen," because I was leaving the show. I had been with it for about 7 or 8 months. And so she said, "When you get back to New York," she said, "start studying dance." She said, "You move extremely well, but you really should study dance." And she told me, which is what I tell a lot of people today, study it with a dancer's mentality, not as a singer looking to move well.
Okay.
It makes all the difference in the world. So, and that's what I did. And 25 years later, I studied it a long time.
You consider what we say in show business as a triple threat, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Talk to me a little bit about your early career. I pull your IMDb and wow, it's 3 pages long, right? You go all the way back to the Merv Griffin show, the David Frost show, the 30th annual Tony Awards, where you were a nominee and you performed. Show at the Apollo presents Diana. Talk about, and Sammy and Company. So talk about your early career a little bit.
Well, like I said, I was very fortunate, but it's a lot of hard work because eventually I went off, on my own. I mean, Bobby and Honey always stayed there if I needed guidance or just some advice about whatever. They were there to give it to me. But I think what's in me, and I think I got that from my mother, is that I work hard.
Yeah.
I work my little tush off. Little tush. Anyway, I work it off because I think so many performers, at least then, and I would venture to say probably today, you want something given to you on a silver platter. There is no silver platter. And if you are lucky to for somebody to want to hire you because you're in the right place at the right time, are you ready? See, I was ready. Like, let's take for instance, Bubbling Brown Sugar. We heard that Billy Wilson was going to do a tap number. And I had never studied tap. Remember, I tapped my butt up, but I couldn't tap. So I said, are you sure about that? There's going to be a tap number? I said, okay. I immediately started taking tap. And we had a few months to go, so I took it every day. And I ended up leading the tap. I mean, I was one of the 4 stars in the show, but I ended up leading the tap. Had I not done that, it would have been a whole nother kind of finale. With the, I had the top hat, the white suit, and I led the tap, but I studied it. So whatever I wanted to learn, whatever I wanted to do, I wanted to be the best at it. And you can't do that. It just doesn't descend on you. Right. You have to put the effort. You have to work at it. And that's what I did. Going to the nightclubs. I mean, now people talk about my natural ability on the stage when I'm dealing with an audience in my nightclub act, my concerts, how natural I am. Child, it was a time you'd say, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Vivian Reed. I come on. Hello. Hello. I didn't talk or anything. I mean, the whole talking on stage, it really came about in Provincetown when one of my friends, he opened up a restaurant up there and people weren't coming in. So I said, well, why don't I come up and do a weekend for you? And he said, you do that? I said, yeah, I'll do a weekend for you. Just spread the word, that I'm coming. Now, why is this so important? Because before this happened, a friend of mine, Didier, French friend of mine, he would say, I don't understand it. You're the funniest person going. You're so funny. He said, but the minute they say Vivian Reed, you pull all up and get all, you don't talk on stage. So I just never understood what he was talking about until I'm going up to my friend's place. He sends this friend. It's on YouTube. If you type in Vivian Reed Trip from Hell, you'll hear the whole monologue that is right off the cuff. You'll hear it right. It's right off the cuff. Talking about this lady coming down to pick me up. And every time she saw a red light, she'd go through it. When she saw a green light, she'd stop. I said, what the hell? Is this a little bit backwards? Aren't you supposed to stop when you see a red light? I said, when we got to 96th Street after she done gone through about 3 red lights, I told her, get out. I'm driving. So I'm telling this whole story, and it was much more to it when I get up to his restaurant. And I just started talking, and people were laughing and carrying on. It's right on YouTube. And from that point on, I knew what DDA was talking about. So I'm very comfortable on stage, especially in my concerts. I like to make people feel that they are in my living room. I script things, but I don't memorize them. I know basically the gist of what I'm going to say before I start a song, and that's it.
Wow. I know you mentioned the bubbly brown sugar. So I was doing some reading, and your role was created at some point.
I created the role. Danny Holgate wanted me. He called me to tell me about a party that he was giving, and I said, so what you been up to these days? He said, well, I'm giving this party. And he went on to say, after inviting me to the party, that they were doing this little show. And I said, well, what's the show? And he said, Bubbling Brown Sugar. I said, what kind of dumb name is that? Bubbling Brown Sugar. That's a dumb name. And he said he went on to tell me, about it. And well. So he said was, all of these songs with my Black composers and everything. So that kind of interested me. So he said, back to the party. Are you coming to the party? I said, well, no, tell me some more about this Bubbly Brown Sugar. He said, Vivian, it's not a show for you. He said, didn't even pay. Anyway, I said, just get me an audition. So he got me an audition and I went down there and they hired me while I was still on the stage. And so I said, well, what's the role? They said, there is no role. I said, then why are you going to hire me? They said, because we like your singing. So at that point, I had been studying dance for about a year. So I turned around and asked the choreographer, who then was Fred Benjamin. I said, so that's why I tell you, you got to speak up now. You got to ask what you want. You got to ask. I said, so do you have all your dances? Now, I've only been dancing, studying a year, right? Do you have all your dances? He said, why? Do you dance? I said, I've been studying for a year. He said, well, Vivian, I'm gonna have to give you some choreography to see, what you do. I said, come on. So he obviously liked what he saw. And so I became the fourth dancer. This is what a lot of people don't know. In Bubbly Brown Sugar, earlier on, I was the fourth dancer. But then I think in the middle of the run, before we hit Broadway, I was doing a lot of publicity and a lot of stuff, and I just was tired. And so I didn't want to do that. And so I talked him into hiring somebody else, and that's what they did. And so, because I was doing Sweet Georgia Brown, which was song and dance. And so I just wanted to save all my energy for the time I was on stage. But you do have to ask for, I tell people all the time, if there are things when you get a role that you feel you would like to try, just go up. And now the director can say no. But there's nothing wrong with asking, because he just may turn around and say, well, let me see what you're talking about. And he may prefer that to what he's come up with. So, and I'm big on that. I will do that in a heartbeat. I will ask the director, let me try this, let me try that. And so that's what I did. I picked the songs. We went down through the songs, and I didn't want to sing God Bless the Child. This is another thing that shocks people. They said, well, why do you want to sing God Bless the Child? I said, because I don't really, it's the way the chords are and all of that. And, I'm brought up in the church and all the jazz chords and So Danny Holgate said, well, Vivian, we can arrange it the way you want. I said, really? So it was an arrangement of God Bless the Child that had never been heard before, because most people had done it, the way Billie Holiday sang it and did it. And I took it in a whole different direction. And it worked, it worked, but it was me. It wasn't me fitting into something else that was not right for me. It was me talking about and changing chords. Not ever. I think when people do this, they have to still keep the integrity in mind of the piece. You just can't literally reinvent and take things a whole other different direction. I did not do that. You still will hear the melody of God Bless the Child and all of that. It was just the way I sang it and some of the chords that Danny and I came up with, and gave it another life, so to speak. Yeah.
Wow. And that's really that go-getter mentality that a lot of individuals need to, hold on to, because sometimes they feel like you were saying earlier, oh, well, it's served on a silver platter. And that's not always the case. You might be talented, but you definitely have to continue to work through everything that you're going to do in this journey.
Well, I had a reputation. I'm just going to come out and say it. They used to call me a bitch. not the producers and all that. It was just my peers. And I think, let me just put it to you this way. I really work hard for what I do, because my focus is on the audience. What can I do? What can I bring to the stage? What can I give of myself so that audience receives what I'm trying to emit? What can I do? The audience is always my focus. I do my homework, whatever the choreographer gives, whatever the director gives. I go home, I wake up in the middle of the night. Oh God, what was that step? Okay, let me go over that. Okay, what were those lyrics? Let me go over that. This is what you have to do. So now, if you're in a number with me, you got to bring it. You have to bring it because people were coming there to see Sweet Georgia Brown, and that was with two guys. So it's just not my number. The number belongs to the three of us. So you have to do your job as an actor, as a performer. And if you don't do that, okay, now there's going to be a little hell to pay, because I can't have that. I can't have that because there's too many starving artists out there and people who are willing to work hard and put in the time, who love what they do, and they will bring it. So,
those musicians was bringing it. Every time you perform, you have a fantastic band. It's Thank you. I'm serious. And the arrangement, who does the arranging? Because Hold On, I'm Coming, you did just a totally different.
My arrangements.
Okay.
What I do with each song, and I have my conductor, Billy McDaniel, when I have things the way I want them, he charts them for me. And I allow him some input. But he has to think outside the box. When I do my arrangements, I remember my drummer, right? That you watch.
Yeah, he bad.
I remember when Damon and I first got together and we were doing Fever, right? So and he got his eyes closed. He's not looking at the chart now. He just drumming away. He missed all my breaks, I said, stop. I said, Damon, this ain't no jam session. He said, what? I said, this ain't no jam session. I said, that chart is in front of you for a reason. Now, once you know how I do my chart and what the breaks are and all of that, then you can, now he knows, he knows my show like the back of his hand, but this is when we first got together. What I do is, first of all, I'm not going to sing any song that I don't like. In musicals, I've had to sing songs that I didn't like, and you still have to find a way that the audience doesn't pick up on that. You have to find a way that audience thinks is the best song that ever came out of your mouth. So I can't say that I haven't sung songs that I didn't like in musicals, but in my show, I always try to pick songs that I absolutely love. Then I sit down and I say, okay, what do I want to do with this? And then I usually come up with a bass line first or something like that. But it is a process because Bobby Schiffman said to me, you probably won't have the greatest recording career. And I didn't. He said, so you'll probably be doing a lot of covers. He said, but Vivian, whatever you do, make sure you put your stamp on it. He said, nobody wants to hear a copy of the original. They can just go back and listen to the original person. And he drilled that in me. It is so ingrained in me. So that's what I do. Everything. So I am known for my arrangements. Yeah.
So your performances at the National Black Theater Festival have been monumental.
Thank you.
Remember when you was talking about going out and being talk with the audience, you came out and went out there to them.
Oh, yes.
And they loved you. They just loved you.
Thank you. And without a mic too, without a mic. Because I just, I love when an audience member or audience members say to me, you made me think, you made me laugh, you made me cry. That touches me so much because then I know that I have done my job, and I don't look at it as a job, that I've done what I intended to do. And I think it's incumbent upon every artist when they hit the stage. It's not only about you standing on stage to sing well, to dance well, to act well. There has to be something behind it. Like at any given moment, I will ask a student, and they don't know what's coming, honey. So if any of my students are watching, see, I'm giving you a heads up, baby. You better have it together. I will say, any given moment, tell me in 2 sentences what you're singing about. And most times when I catch them off, and this is for the first time that I'm doing this to them, they'll say, well, the lyrics say, I said, put that down. I'm not interested in what the lyrics say. I can look at the lyrics myself. Tell me what the lyrics say to you. And if they spend more than 2 or 3 seconds hemming and hawing and not saying anything. I said, so let me get this straight. You standing up singing a song and you don't know what the hell you singing about.
Right.
Right.
Impossible to do anything. And it's not part of you inside. I mean, you could take God Bless a Child and give it to 10 singers, and 10 singers may have 10 different meanings for the song.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have something.
Right.
Something. You just can't be up there with a beautiful voice just singing words. It just kind of doesn't work that way. So my students know. They know, oh, she might ask me today. Let me go look. But the joy to me is taking a piece of music, seeing what I can do with it arrangement wise. And also back to Billy McDaniel. Our sessions or something, because he'll pretend like he don't understand I'm saying. Like if I give him he said, okay, now do it slowly. So this man is a genius. He will purposely take me through it.
Right.
Telling me that he don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Right.
But he is amazing because we go way back. He's done a lot of theater. And I come up with this crazy stuff and he charts it, and he's had some wonderful ideas as well. So, yeah, it's the joy. It's the joy in creating.
Right.
Process.
Because I tell my students all the time, acting is believing. And if you can't make me believe it, if you don't believe it yourself, you have to believe that you're this character to make me believe that you're this character.
I've said this so often, and people close to me have heard me say this often. People say that I have a great voice, and I mean, I thank God for it, but let me just tell you something. I've heard great singers couldn't make my toe move. They had all the high notes. They had all the low notes. They had all everything, but conviction.
Yes.
About what they were singing. Yet I have seen singers who just had mediocre voices who made me cry. That's the difference. Same thing with a dancer. Yeah, you can develop your leg up to here. Okay, you got great technique, but what's behind it? And to me, that's with anything you do. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just about people in show business. It's with anything you do in life.
That's right.
You want to love it. You want to be the best you can in it, whatever that entails. I mean, I ask a lot of questions coming along. I wanted to know about lights. I wanted to know about sound. I wanted to know about all of these things, because if you think to just standing in front of a microphone singing with a beautiful voice is all there is to your show, you better think again. It's everything. The lights, the sound, what you wear, it's everything.
Michelle, she even know about video. She asked me all kinds of questions about video. Here I am, the videographer, but here she is. She knows all the formats. She knows.
Yeah. Well, that's because as far as that is concerned, I was a photographer at one point, concurrent to, my career. And how did that happen? I spent $1,000 at that time. That was a lot of money. $1,000 getting photos. I'm not going to call her name. She's based in New York. A part of it was my fault, because when I looked at her portfolios, and she had about 22 of them, there was only photos of about 5 Black people. That should have told me something, because there is an art to lighting Black skin.
It really is.
You just can't just turn a light and say, okay, here we go. No. And then she was still on film. So, I mean, I've been shot by some of the biggest photographers around the world, and being on film, they at least do 5 to 10 Polaroids. I would say a minimum of 10 until they get that lighting right. Because you don't have the benefit like you have with a digital camera of turning it on and then looking and say, okay, I need to adjust this. No. So you have to do Polaroids. She took a Polaroid. I was as dark as, you can't see this. I was as dark. No, wrong side. I was as dark as that. I said, honey, I think you need to lighten me up a little bit. So she took another Polaroid. All right. So I went from really dark to say medium dark chocolate. And she didn't want to do another one. When that session was over, I said to a friend of mine who used to be a top model in Paris, I said to her, I said, I don't think this session went well. She said, oh, what do you mean? She said, I'm sure it's going to be fine. When I saw those contact sheets, oh my God, hair was like this and I was dark and she shot too close because I saw her zooming in. And I even said to her, aren't you a little bit close? Because she distorted my features. I went home and cried like a baby. Of course, I paid the money and I never was able to use those photos. So I got up in the middle of the night. I had a little Canon camera in there. Got up and I just started shooting myself. I had a remote control. And I said, wait a minute now. You look pretty good. Ooh, it ain't bad now.
Yeah.
So I went down to B&H and started asking a gazillion questions, drove them crazy, and then took thousands of shots and showed them to people. And I didn't tell them it was me. I just wanted to know what they thought. And so after they said, Vivian, this is good, really good. And so that's when I invested in some professional equipment. And then I learned how to do editing with Adobe. And then that led to other stuff. So that's the only reason why. And I loved photography. I did. I loved it. Loved it.
And I think it's really good that you're able to learn outside of what you're going, like
Yes.
what you started out with. So that way you won't get, unfortunately, scammed, or you know what you're working with when it comes to other people. Not to say that you have to be an expert, because that takes a lot of work, but at least you know what's coming back to you because you ask the right questions. And I think for any artist on any platform, they should ask, even on the business side of things. When we talking to our art students and we're talking to our marketing students, it's like, hey, what else do you need to know? So that way, when you're out there and you can't afford the accountant and the marketer for you, or even a manager, you have to learn these things, because there are some people out there that will take your money and keep running. And now you're left, unfortunately, like for you, Miss Vivian, a product or a service that you can't use.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's excellent advice, because it does happen. People, agents, managers, and there are so many good ones out there. I'm not lumping all managers and agents into one big vat, but you have those that will try you. I mean, in Europe one time, I was asked one of their big superstars in Germany, and I was asked to be their guest on their TV special. And they wanted Sweet Georgia Brown and they wanted God Bless the Child. And they told me, I'll basically tell you what it was, what I was making. They told me, and this is years ago, that I was going to be paid $6,000 for these two songs, and they would pay for the dancers, they would pay hotels and all this. So I said, fine, that was okay for me. It's fine. And they would pick up all expenses. Honey, I got to Miss Germany. It was at the end of us going through, I think it was Sweet Georgia Brown, the producer. Now, who set up the contract was this agent. The producer came up to me. He said, Miss Reed, would you like to get paid now? I said, sure. Listen, I want y'all to listen to this, okay? I don't tell this story too often. Get into his office. He puts this paper in front of me, and it says that I'm not making $6,000. I don't know what 20,000 D-mark is, but I was making way more than that six. Baby, I didn't bat an eye. Inside, I was going, what the hell? But I was like poker face,
Right. There you go. Mm-hmm.
Right. There you
So
go.
I sat there and I counted it, signed it. So I knew at some point that I'm not going to call his name, German guy, that he was going to be calling me, So sure enough, when I get back to the hotel, ding-a-ling-a-ling, the phone rang. And he said, Vivian, this is so-and-so. He says, I understand that you got paid, that you got the money. And he's stammering, you got, because his ass done got caught. He got caught. So I said, yeah, come on over to the hotel so I can pay you your commission. When he came over to the hotel, I paid him commission
off of the 6,000.
6,000.
Yep.
He said, but wait a minute. I said, no, you wait a minute. I said, baby, you think I'm born yesterday? I said, my managers were the owners of the Apollo Theater. I learned business as much as I learned how to be an artist. Right. I said, I don't care what you did. I don't care that you did it. Just don't get caught at it. Be smart enough to cover your tracks. Huh?
Was he trying to make, he was going to get the money and then give you the 6,000, right?
They do a separate contract. See, they will do a contract directly with the promoter. I'm talking about the HL, but do a separate one with you. So they'll tell you that it's paying 6,000, but the actual deal is triple that or whatever, which is cool. I don't know how much of that is happening today because the artists are really on top of their stuff and they're in charge of everything they do. But it does happen. It's like, y'all got to go watch my YouTube videos because I talk about this business and things that you shouldn't do. Like when artists turn everything that they do over to a manager. Don't do that. Yes. A manager can go out there and try to open up doors for you and get you work and all of that. But you want to know every step of the way what he's doing. He should not ever say, yeah, my artist is doing a job without talking to you first.
Exactly.
Right.
And then he also should not turn down a job without talking to you first. It's a collaboration. It's a communication. And it's hard to get over on me. If you get over on me, you got to make sure that you have covered your tracks. See, he didn't cover his tracks because he didn't count on that producer from the TV show wanting to give me my money early. That's what he didn't count on. And see, don't forget, the producer don't know about this deal that he made directly with me.
Right.
You know about that. So I gladly counted the money and took it on back to Paris where I was living.
All right. Listen, I really want you to talk about your show, Vivian Reed Sings Lena Horne. I don't want to because that was a show. Tell us how that came about and how you enjoyed doing that.
Well, a producer by the name of Daniel Nardicchio called me and said, I think you should put a show together on Lena Horne because her centennial is coming up, June 30th, born in 1917. And this was in the tail end of 2016 when he was telling me this. So I said, okay. And so I put a show together. It was rough now because she definitely sang the standards. I listened to so much material. I have a friend of mine who just collects everything. And I said, just send me, a bunch of files of Lena's songs. And he sent me, must have been 250, 300 files. So I went through all of these songs, and I boiled it down to 50, which was boiled down to 25, which was eventually boiled down to, 15. And the next step was, the hardest thing, because she was big in civil rights, fighting for the rights of just not African Americans, but for all people. And I had to find a song that was suitable for that because I could not do a Lena Horne show without talking about her activism. So I didn't come across the song, and I'm like, I was panicking and I couldn't write it. I mean, this had to be her music. I remember I was sitting in the car, still listening, and I heard, now is the moment now. And so I'm saying, oh God, please, please, please be about the climate, and about civil rights. And that's exactly what it was. I said, oh, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so my show was complete. And so the next thing was dealing with, the dialogue and what I wanted to say about her, because her story is immense. And I couldn't do more than really 75 minutes. And I designed it for a club for 54 Below. And And we debuted it with the orchestra in Pittsburgh. And I loved it. But it was hard. And then after I got everything together, I called Billy over. I said, okay, let's go through everything. And we were dealing with an orchestra. So I said, okay, Billy, do the horns. And so the show, he did some incredible horns, and the arrangements are all different. They're all her songs, but arrangements are all different. The only thing that I did that wasn't Lena's was at the end of the show, like you said, I like to go down into the audience, and usually that's a song that I pick that best describes my feelings and how I feel about the audience. And it's not necessarily a song, or was in her show something that she sang, because I did look it up to see, did she sing this? And she hadn't. So, but it was a joy. When I was being managed by the owners of the Apollo Theater, her uncle was there worked there as an accountant. And one day Bobby asked me to come over to the Apollo. And when I walked into his office, it was a huge trunk. I talk about this in the show. And I said, what is that? He said, open it up. And when I opened it up, my God, it was filled with beautiful, beautiful evening gowns. And I said, what is this? He had asked Mr. Horne to ask his niece, Lena, if she had any gowns that she wasn't wearing, and would she consider giving them to an aspiring artist that he was managing. And she sent the trunk over.
Oh,
isn't that amazing? So I was able to thank her later. Yeah, when she got on Broadway with her musical, The Lady in Her Music. I waited backstage and I said, do you remember this young lady who your uncle asked, for these gowns? And she said, yeah. I said, well, I'm that young lady, much grown, of course, at that point. And yeah. And then eventually we spoke later, a later date, and she saw things that I had done. And but she was so incredible. So incredible. Not to speak of her beauty. Yeah. Lord have mercy. Was she a beauty? And she never considered herself a singer. I don't really talk about that in the show, but the things that I read up on her earlier on when she was young, and I think it stayed like that for years, she never thought of herself as a singer. So she would watch some of the greats and she honed. But you know what? Going back to what we were saying a while ago, she may not have thought she was the greatest singer in the world, but let me tell you what she had. She was a performer down. And to me, that is the bottom line.
Right. The stage presence.
Oh, the stage presence, everything, her gowns, her diction, her arrangements. Even though I did my own on her music, but still her arrangements that she did for herself, through whoever she was doing them with. I mean, just amazing. And she could perform. She knew how to talk to an audience, and she was funny, So yeah, it was a joy. It was my pleasure to put that show together.
Michelle, I think we should talk about COVID now, don't you?
Oh, Lord have mercy. Yeah, and don't let me forget to not talk about my show that's coming up on the 9th.
Oh, right. We won't let you forget about that.
Do we have some time left?
Oh, yeah, we do. We're not going to cut you off at 7. We're going to go until you want. Yeah.
COVID. Listen, I went out to LA. Ren Brown, very wonderful, famous actor, invited me out. He is the artistic director out there. I think it's Ebony Repertory Theater or something like that. Beautiful theater. And he said, Vivian, I want you to come out. He had seen me at the National Black Theater Festival. He says, come on out and do your show. So I did the Lena Horne show, as a matter of fact. That's the one he wanted. So they were talking on television about this, pandemic and, the virus, coronavirus and all that. And they had bowls in the hotel with all these wipes, these wipes that you could use for germs and stuff. So I would just load them. I just pile them in my purse. So on the way back to New York, people were wiping off arms and seat backs and seats and everything. So I wiped too, I was wiping. And so, I actually went out and I bought one of those cloth masks. So got home, and it wasn't soon after I returned to New York till New York was on lockdown.
Right.
I mean, I would look out of my window with no cars in the street. So my biggest outing, here was my biggest outing, y'all. My biggest outing every 2.5 weeks was going to Trader Joe's. Oh, I couldn't wait. Can't wait. This is the day for Trader Joe's. I was going to Trader Joe's, baby. That was my big outing. But what was I doing all this time? Child, I was eating everything that could go in this mouth. I was cooking things that I didn't even know I could cook. I'm telling you, oh Lord. And then when I would talk to other people on the phone, how you doing? I can't stop eating. I see you too. So after a while, with everybody talking about how much they were eating, that's when I put out that fat rap video. I don't know if you saw it. It's called Fat Rap. Your ass has been eaten. It's on my page. You have to scroll way down.
Okay,
Fat rap. And so I did it, and it has nine characters in it. And it's funny. It is funny. It got a lot of views.
I saw you post that, right?
You gotta watch that thing. It is funny. I got a little rap in there and all that. Yeah. So and then after that, I said, girl, you can't just keep sitting here eating. So that's when I took out a lot of fabric, because I have this scarf and poncho line on Etsy. So I just took out a lot of fabric that I had here and started sewing and made up a bunch of scarves and ponchos. Not that I needed them, because I have my line, so I had inventory, but it gave me something to do. And then I got back to my writing, and that's how I've done it. Now, this vaccine that they talking about, if Fauci does not say, Dr. Fauci, you know how you pronounce his name, right? Dr. Fauci.
Yeah, Dr. Fauci.
It's got to come out of his mouth.
Right, exactly.
That we are now ready, you guys, to have this vaccine. If it don't come out of his mouth, it ain't coming up through my body.
I am not shooting up.
No. It ain't coming up in here. No, because after he done told us to ingest disinfectant,
right.
I'm not gonna get in any politics, but no, I'm all for. I want this thing to be over with, but I do know enough that research and that kind of thing, when you're looking for a cure for something, that takes time,
right?
And I just can't see it happening in a few weeks. So my thing is going to be waiting for Dr. Fauci to give the go ahead. Other than that, and nobody comes to visit, I don't line them over. Like, for instance, in the show that I'm going to be doing on the 9th, in that particular show, I have guest artists. Well, I said, oh my God, I have to take some numbers out the show. You're not coming up here singing with me. And that spit might get out of your mouth and get all in my eyes and stuff. No, we're not doing that. So, and we're going to figure out a way how we can do it where there's no latency problem. I don't think they've really gotten to that point. You can do it where you record it and it's fine, but to do it live, where you're live with someone and you do it kind of normally, So I'm just taking from other shows and putting into the Standards and More show, which is what I'm going to be doing on the 9th.
Okay, and that's October 9th?
October 9th, people would go to, we haven't really started advertising, or they haven't started advertising, but they would go to metropolitanzoom.com, and you'll see where it says buy tickets, and the tickets are really reasonable, $25. And if you want to do photos and that kind of stuff for VIP, it's like $40, but the tickets are very reasonable, and that's going to go all over the world. So I'm happy about that for some of my fans who live outside the United States. So I'm pretty excited. Going to be different. We'll hear the audience applaud, but other than that, I'll have this monitor and I'll see people, but it's going to be strange. But it'll be something that I enjoy, because even when I'm here going over my music, it's like a gazillion people are in my living room. I'm just as serious as if I was standing in front of a whole crowd. It'll be fine. Yeah.
Michelle?
Yes. So now that everybody was home with COVID and no one could really go anywhere, I know that you said that you was working on writing. So could you share a little bit on what you do?
What, my writing?
Yes, ma'am.
I have a writing partner by the name of Helen Bank, and someone new that has come, Eric Floyd. And I've been writing songs a long time. Am I passionate about it as I am about singing, or as I was with dancing? Not really. I'm good at it, but most writers get up every day and write all day. That's what they do. So my writing partner over in France said, Vivian, you have anything that you want to send us? So I had in my new show that I've only done once. It's called A Little Bit of Pop, Little Bit of Soul, and it's more R&B and funky stuff. I wrote a song called Slam Bam. And so I said, well, I have that. I have this one called Emancipated Lady. So I sent it to her. So she said, oh, we could really use it. She said, why don't you get back to your writing? And then my conductor also said it. So I decided to get back to it. So I've written actually several things. And I'll probably put them all together and put them on a CD. And it'll just be all original things. In fact, a show that I really want to do in the future, I would like to do a show of all original material featuring writers and their music. You know, of course, they would have to submit, and of course, the song would have to be good for me. I have to feel that I can do justice to the song. But I want to do a show with just nothing but original music, because there's so many talented people out there. Yeah. And that's what makes it so great about the National Black Theater National Black Theater Festival, because it's a platform for African Americans to have their work seen and heard, whereas they may not otherwise be given the opportunity. So I sort of kind of want to do this, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea.
Yes. Oh, and I will say about my show on the 9th, it's at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's different time, you know, depending on where you are in the country and the world. I feel sorry for those people in Europe, because that means a 7 o'clock show Eastern Standard Time would be about 1 o'clock. So a couple of my friends said, I'll just set an alarm if I'm asleep. But I would just say, when you watch these concerts online, try to do it and listen to them. If you have a system, try to plug it into your system so that you really get the best sound that you could get. But what I don't want you to do, please don't watch these shows, not just mine, anybody's show. Your iPhone and Android, it can't take it. It can't take that kind of sound. So try to be on your laptop. That's my advice. And if it could come through some speakers, that's even better. Yeah.
Got you. So when you was talking about your show, how do you go about marketing yourself? What do you tell your students? Like, hey, I'm learning this. How do I put myself out there so I can be recognized?
You mean when I'm talking to my students about whatever?
Or just like experience, you know, to get people to know more about who you are?
Well, I do have a PR person that I use. As far as young people are concerned, or people just coming into the business, they can't afford that. You know, what I say is, when you're just coming into the business, especially if you're in college or you leave college, like many do, because the one thing about show business is, when the opportunity presents itself, you better take it. Show business is very different. Okay, you better take it if it presents itself. So I usually tell them, get the papers, because at this point, you're not union. Yes, they hold non-union auditions, and you have to look out for them. And a lot of times they don't. They want union people. So any experience that you can get, even if it's gone into a non-union show, even if it's some show in some remote town, that's still giving you experience. Any time that you can get on the stage when you're first starting out, it's gold. It's gold. Because you're adding more and more to your arsenal. You're adding more and more to your experience, so that when the time does come, something big, you're ready. So you're going to have to do your homework. You have to look in the papers, go online. They have, I think is it Playbill or Backstage, I think, has an online presence for auditions and things like that. I think there's some kind of charge a month. I don't know. It's nominal charge. I don't know. But there are things that you can do, because you want to get the experience, and you can't think you can think you are the greatest thing since chocolate cake with some potato salads to show thrown in. But you have to understand, there are many wonderfully gifted artists out there. Who are trying to do what you're trying to do. So your thing is not to covet them or be jealous, as can happen in these shows. Trust me, I went through it. It can happen. Your job is to become the best that you can be. to make sure that when you go into a show, that the production staff remembers you, will want to work with you again.
Right.
You want to always be on time. You want to always be prepared. You want everything that they give you and tell you to do at rehearsal, work on it that night. Because your time isn't your time. Remember this. Your time isn't your time until after a show opens.
Right.
It's not your time. Even if you have to get up in the middle of the night. And then even after it opens, you still want to work to see, okay, I've gotten this, we're open. And I might have gotten great reviews. Don't rest on that. Keep working at it.
Very good. We're gonna have to bring you down here to North Carolina Central and to Fayetteville State.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would love that. Maybe do a master class or something.
Right.
We're
That
all
would be
for
great.
master classes.
Right.
Yeah, I've done a few of them. In fact, that's what got me to Berklee College of Music. You know, this whole teaching thing, you know, it was like when they first called me, I said, I'm a performer.
Right.
I don't know about that. So then I know I did Showboat and they paid me a lot of money. And then the guy called again and I said, you know what, Vivian, come on, give back. But I always tell them, as I told them at Marymount and I told them at Berklee College of Music in Boston, I said, listen, my career is first. This is my gift from God. This is what I do. I said, so if a job comes along, if I want the job, if I like the job and I feel that's going to be beneficial for me, I have to take the job. And both times they said, never a problem, Vivian. You'll always be welcome back. We want you to go do what you do. And the only time that happened with Marymount was this last fall. Last fall. I went to Texas to do a brand new musical and I was gone. I played a 80-some-year-old grandmother. Makeup and all. You should have seen it. It was so much fun. So much fun.
Yeah. Well, any final words, Michelle?
No, I'm just amazed. So I got all these YouTube videos that I need to go back.
Right,
and
me
watch.
too.
No, but you gotta definitely watch Vivian Reed Trip from Hell. It is funny.
Yeah.
That's the beginning of me actually talking on stage.
Wow.
But this has been a joy. Y'all are great viewers.
This has been really a joy for us too, because like I said, you got like 3 pages of what you stay on the stage all your career. And I wish my students could hear you when you say, you know, always try to get on the stage. Don't be worried about, you know, what's a small part of, as long as you are developing your craft.
Yes.
That's what's important. That's what's important.
That's the most important thing is, well, first of all, you have to love it. I tell people, if you don't love it, you should get out now.
Right.
Because this sounds crazy, what I'm getting ready to say, but it will kill you, not in that sense, but there are more down moments than there are up moments. And you have to be prepared for that. Not every job you go in for, even if you think you were the best, are they going to hire you for? So you have to understand that it all boils down to type. They're looking for a type. Either you're too short, too tall, too big, too small. You don't know what they're looking for. So what I tell you, just don't try to figure out what how a director wants you to sing a song or how they want you to do a scene. Make up in your mind how you're going to do that scene. Okay, this is the choice I have come up for this scene. This is the choice I have come up for this song. Because you don't know what the director wants. You can't call them on the phone and say, what are you looking for? No, you can't do that. So you have to come up with what you think is best for that song and then go in there and do it with all the conviction that you can muster. That's all I got to say.
Well, I think
we want to thank you so much for joining us, Ms. Reed, and to all of our audience out there. This has been Theater Talk Live, and we do this and interview prominent actors and actresses and playwrights and musicians, and we do this on Sundays at 6 p.m. right here on Agape Theater Project. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time on Agape Theater Project's Theater Talk Live. Thank you, and good night.